Hello and welcome to the Investing Bros. I'm T. Shroom, your guide in these tumultuous and volatile markets. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the Bitcoin charts where we can see the Bitcoin has taken a bit of a tumble here. Sub 63 at one point, all the way down to about 62.58 on the Coinbase exchange here on TradingView. And so, is this bad? Well, we're going to answer that question here. Should you sell? We're going to probably get close to answering that question here for you. Of course, it's going to vary based on your own specific financial situation. But what happened, too? We're going to get into what happened here with this price, why it has come down, and I'll also get into some other news as well. There's actually some pretty bullish news, but I'm not going to jump the gun here. Usually, I give away exactly what I'm thinking here in the first couple seconds. Not going to do that today because I need you all to smash the likes. Army Piper here saying it really, really well. I need those likes. I need them like a fish needs water, right? Like a dog needs pets. Like Nancy Pelosi needs stock tips from her congressional fellows and in industry lobbyists. Sorry, Nancy, you had to take the punch here on the Investing Bros in order, kind of at your expense here. We're making some jokes, but there's no jokes about it, folks. Today, there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that bought in this zone up here, that bought Bitcoin for the first time, hoping, hearing that it was going to go to 100,000 very, very soon, and they unfortunately have sold somewhere in here and probably have sold by today. Now, a lot of this selling action, this downward action, thankfully, is just traders, right? Just traders taking profit up here. And we're going to get to a story that kind of explains who the majority of those sellers are today. But we got to pour some out today for the noobs who got totally melted here and bought at these higher levels and then are now selling for a loss. It sucks, right? Bitcoin, of course, peak to trough here, wick to wick, 15.4% move to the downside here in just about a week, right? It's not that much, really. So just keep that in mind. This could go quite a bit lower. I'm going to tell you all how low I think it can go. But before I do, let's just jump into the chat here. Let's see. Brutal said, put 100x long at 62.5. I do not recommend doing that. That is silliness. But if you want to do a leverage trade here, you can go to our link down below to Blofin exchange. You need to trade responsibly, though. Don't be doing no 100x longs unless your level of confidence is as high as Bitcoin's price is going to be in 2025. Eric Wallen said, buy the dip, people. This is the resounding sentiment for those of you who have some dry powder left. If not, let's see, it's the 19th, so everybody just got paid on the 15th. You should have had some money set aside, maybe to buy some of these dips, but probably you already bought, somewhere here in the first test down to 64 is my guess. That is my guess that probably there has been some capital deployed down there. Let's see what else we got rocking here in the chat. GM Bros from Mike Play. You got to love it. Let's see. Eric Wallen said, I think the description by ineffective miners last second selling. Desperation by inefficient miners. Could be. That's an interesting take. I definitely don't hate that take. That's actually kind of interesting. I'm looking for a tweet that I tweeted out the other day, just because I think it's good to have a little bit of callback of your successes here. So this was a tweet from March 16th when we first started to kind of roll over in the Bitcoin price here. So March 16th would have been right here, right? It was kind of clear that we weren't going to be able to put in a higher high. We're going to put in a lower high compared to back here on March 14th. And I tweeted out, I said, 64K and then 58K, my downside levels for Bitcoin. That has not changed, right? So we've already penetrated through the first level of 64. And did your boy call it? He kind of did. 64.5 was that bounce price that Bitcoin got a bid off of, and then could not get past the midline of the Bollinger Band here on the 4-hour. Basically got rejected of that. I don't even know if there was a single candle body close. No, there were. There were a couple here. There's a red one, and then we got a green one. But ultimately, big Klapski for Bitcoin, pushing through or slicing lower here through this line, which I'll show you guys the significance of here in just a second. And now we're rocking out down here. Probably going to get back down to 62 here before the day is all said and done. But I'm still thinking 58. I'm still thinking 58 is probably in the cards here. Much lower than 58, and I'm starting to doubt. But let me show you guys a couple of things here on the charts. So this would be the 0.65 here. So the top of the golden pocket, and that comes in right around 58.3. Okay. Then you also have this white line that I had drawn before. Now that white line you may not be familiar with. This is kind of a shout out to Magic Internet Money. He loves doing these monthly candle support levels. So as you can see here on my chart, this line that I have drawn in the present day chart, right? This is this chart. This is this line right here is the same line, because this is the same chart just zoomed out quite a bit on the monthly time frame. It's at 58.6. This goes all the way back to these candlestick closes here, right? So that's what the significance of those lines are, right? You also get this wick close up here. So I don't know if a wick closes, but this wick back here. And then obviously these would coincide. This line up here at 64.7 coincided with this wick up here. And then this one here, 53, which I am not saying we're going to go to. I don't think that we'll get down that low. Coincides with this wick here and this wick here. Okay. So now you're kind of tracking where those lines originate. Oh, decrypted.tax. Go check them out. Decrypted.tax are tax sponsors. If you traded or invested in crypto in 2023, you're going to want to go talk to the pros over at decrypted.tax and tell them that the Investing Bros sent you for 25% off. Seriously, get moving on that. Get your taxes done. Get that money back. If you're entitled to get some money back because you're mostly W-2 income, you could be rotating that cash here into Bitcoin at these lows. All right, so it's not just the fibs, which are predicting 58 at the top of the golden pocket. Oftentimes, when the price breaks through the golden pocket, it will have a ton of price discovery higher. I don't know how common it is to go and test inside the platinum pocket, which we have done. We got rejected at the top of the platinum pocket here at the 887, the 0.887, and now we're making a move back down to the golden pocket, probably to test the golden pocket and make a move higher. So just to be clear, my base case here is that we go down to the golden pocket, test it, maybe have a little bit of hesitance here, and then make a move higher. So that's kind of my base case. There's a possibility that we find some levels somewhere before that and then have a resumption higher. Or, the third option would be that we come into the golden pocket, get kind of stuck, and just hang out there for a while, maybe even try to test lower, and then go higher. But at this point, I don't see a reason to think that we're going to have, because to go lower than the golden pocket here, that would then start to translate into another 12% move, right? Which in all would, from the highs here up at 73, would translate to a 24% move, which is definitely possible, right? But I just think that buyers were very voracious all throughout here. You remember these wicks that kind of look like paint drying, paint dripping down a wall. We talked about this on a 3 p.m. show. The buyers were very voracious here. Now, they were voracious because they probably knew that they wanted to sell here up at the 887, the 0.887. However, now, where are those same buyers? That kind of indicates that there was a lot of trading going on here. But, there was also a lot of investing, right? And those folks are now just sitting on their Bitcoin. Now the question is how much lower can Bitcoin go? Another indicator that we might look at, we've looked at the fibs. We've looked at the monthly levels, which aren't going to go away. I'm going to leave those up. But let's look at the fixed range VPVR, if it'll load for us. Here we go. So obviously this is the most significant level, and we're now trading below that, 67.1 according to the VPVR. We are now approaching this 61.9 level, 61,900 level here is the top of this mountain here, and it's It's hard to climb the mountain. It's easy to fall down the mountain, right? Which brings us again to around 58, right? So we're climbing the mountain right now. I wouldn't say it's very difficult. This has happened in a very short amount of time. But usually it's difficult to climb the mountain, right? And climbing flips each time you're coming. So in a downtrend, you're climbing to come back down. In an uptrend, you're climbing to ascend the mountains. Hopefully that makes sense. But it's easier to fall. So once we get to 61, and we haven't gotten there yet, but once we get to 61,000, we break that level, then I think we fall down the mountain, down to 58, where we probably won't go much lower, in my opinion. Again, that coincides with the Fibonacci's. It coincides with some of those 2021 highs. I just think there's a lot of support there. And there's also a ton of bullish sentiment in the space right now for Bitcoin. So that of which you have tuned into a news show to find out about. I have shown you a lot of information from the charts. Usually we don't spend too much time here on the charts. So there's a little extra bonus for some and an annoyance for others. Either way, make sure that you like the smash button and consider subscribing, say. There's a little pig Latin for you here on your Tuesday morning. Haven't heard pig Latin in a while and probably won't for some time. But let's go ahead and get on into the news here. Rocking out at around 9:12, about halfway to the end of the show here. So thank you for sitting tight with us. We're going to get into some news. Why is this sell-off happening? Well, the big reason is because we got overbought, right? If you look here on the 4-hour, we were in some overbought levels here on the Lux Algo Oscillator Matrix. Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to show you guys in addition to this before we get into the news. I know I had such a good transition. It's a shame to throw away that transition, but here we go. Lux Algo. You can see we were up in the red. So this red zone is the premium zone. We were up in the red zone, which was nice to see, right? Coincided with that Fibonacci top, right? And the top of the platinum pocket. Now we have retraced, and there's also an argument that we could get back down to 57, right? Because that's where the equilibrium zone is here from Lux Algo. Again, I'm kind of partial to not going too much lower than 58, but 57's just the next door neighbor to 58. There's a possibility we go grab some sugar from over there as well. So using some colloquialism, sorry, non-Americans, but here we go. Let's look at the daily here for this as well. So the equilibrium zone would come all the way down to 50. Again, I don't believe that we go down to 50. That's not what I'm thinking at this point. But if we go back to the 4-hour and turn on the Lux algorithm, the Lux Algo signals and overlays, you can see we're actually getting, now this is bullish here, so don't get too crazy, but this is bullish. We're actually getting into, we've tapped it once, and we did get a reversal. We're getting into that first reversal wave here from Lux Algo. Right, so we could see a pop back higher, and if that catches and a bunch more noobs jump in and buy and disproportionately bid Bitcoin higher, then the traders are going to jump in, wait for us to get up to those levels, and then they're going to buy in too and pump the price higher, and then more than likely we'll have to correct later on in the cycle. My hope and my base case is what I drew in here just a second ago. You can rewind it and go watch. I hope that we go ahead and slice through these reversal waves. Even if we have to be sideways for a while, that's fine. But my hope is we slice through these reversal waves, come down and tap 58, right? That would bring us all the way down through these reversal waves and then get a nice resumption higher, okay? So that's what I'm thinking here on the charts. I've showed you everything. I've showed you way more than usually I do. On the 4-hour, you can see the MACD hasn't spent, let me go back to this, hasn't spent much time below the zero line, you can see, really since all the way back February 26th when we had explosive move higher, right? So the MACD lines have been above the zero line. Now that's changed, and now the question is how long do we spend down here? That is going to translate into how much sideways movement we're going to have, because it's Bitcoin, so it's very volatile. There's a chance that we just dip down real quick to 50. Oh, that's way too low. Down to 58, right? Maybe have a little bit of sideways action, probably just a wick, and then move higher. That's another way to illustrate kind of my base case. But what you guys might be noticing is, hey, Lux Algo freaking called this. It's got a nice little sell signal up here. Now, it's not a cut and dry sell signal. There's more to it, but kind of indicating, hey, take your profits right here if you're trading Bitcoin. Called that pretty freaking well. Look at that. That is awesome. You would have done quite a bit. It would have saved you all of this 15% downside if you were trading. Again, investors, just hodl on. But if you were trading this, you would have done really well. You can get a link and a discount to LuxAlgo by clicking the link to LuxAlgo in the description of this very video. All you have to do is go click it, and you'll be having access on TradingView to LuxAlgo, just like I have here on my screen. And it can, I mean, you can literally just trade based on these indicators if you wanted to. I like to use a lot more confluence than that, and so does Tim. But, you could try your luck maybe on paper trading and see how that goes for you. Again, that's LuxAlgo, and we have a link to LuxAlgo in our description. All right, let's go ahead and get into the first bit of news here. This is how you feel. This is Bitcoin at 63 on the way up. Look at that. Happy, smiling, ready for action. Bitcoin at 63 today. And of course, everybody's sad and dystopic, despondent. Not dystopic, they're despondent, right? They're sad, they're depressed. Oh man, whatever is going to happen. I thought I was going to be rich. Well, you probably still will be. And hopefully by the end of the show, we'll get into some of the bullish news here that'll return that optimism here that you had just a couple weeks ago. Before we go too much further here, let's see. Blackie Chan said, I don't even see any chats from Sarah. YouTube blocked her as spam for me. Sarah, I think you meant Gia. Blocked for me, should probably just permanently take her chat permissions away. What? Sarah. I'm out of the loop here. Don't block anybody. Definitely don't block Gia. Oh, okay. Gia, there's some drama here in the chat. If you're not watching live, just hold on just a second. Bear with me. Gia said, one warning only, Sarah AI. Next shill, and you go in timeout. Okay, so Sarah is shilling something. All right, so don't shill. Don't shill. Shilling bad. Let's keep moving here. This is a pretty big story, guys. This is for regulatory clarity. This is not going to affect your portfolio this week, and this is not why Bitcoin is down. But this is a pretty big breakthrough. SEC committed gross abuse of power in suit against crypto company. This would be Debtbox. Federal judge rules. This is kind of similar to the library coin, the Grayscale VSEC, the Coinbase VSEC, and of course Ripple Labs VSEC. This is precedent-setting judicial outcomes for the crypto industry. We care about this a lot. It's very important. And this Debtbox case is kind of the latest one that's gaining some traction in the news. The judge said this: each piece of support the commission offered in seeking the TRO. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the TRO is, but it has something to do with the steps of the court case. And then later reiterated in defending the TRO, provided to be some combination of false, mischaracterized, and misleading. So each piece of support that the SEC presented to the court was false, mischaracterized, and misleading, the order said. Further, the commission not only repeated and affirmed its misinterpretation in the face of contrary evidence, it presented new falsehoods to the court in an effort to subtly shift from its previous misinterpretations without acknowledging its previous errors. Very, very interesting there from the judge presiding over this SEC v. Debtbox case. So we're not going to linger too much on this one, but this could be very big. Remember, Bitcoin spot ETF was passed under the positive shadow of a very positive court case outcome, right? Grayscale v. SEC, where Grayscale won. And the SEC was kind of like, man, we're just going to... Well, Gary Gensler was like, I want to kind of, let the judicial system decide. So he voted for the spot Bitcoin ETF. At least that was what he told everybody. Of course, we know there's a lot going on up in the brain of Gary Gensler, who seems to have a lot of incentives to do certain things. But yet again, we could. So I say that because what's coming up? The ETH spot ETF, and so far it's unlikely to pass in May. That's what is. It seems so far that has been a shift in March from February and January. But now that we could be seeing the SEC v. Debtbox case have a positive outcome for the crypto industry, setting precedent yet again in favor of crypto, that could potentially have an effect on the outcome of the spot ETF for Ethereum. We'll see. We'll see. Bank of Japan ends 8-year negative rates regime. Bitcoin slides to 62.7. So why is this significant? Here, take a look at this. This is all of the World Bank's rates. The central bank's rates. So the Federal Reserve, by far the most important one, and it's well positive, 5.5 here. But as you can see, Bank of Japan was the last holdout to have negative interest rates. Now, if you looked at this list in 2020, almost 80% of these were negative interest rates, I believe, except the ones that are above like 10 here, the Russian and Brazil. A lot of these were negative, especially the European Union and the Bank of England. So anyway, that's important. This is going to be important for our Fed heads. I may have just coined a new term, the Fed heads, people who can't get enough of the Fed news. But that is pretty big. That's going to, essentially dry up more liquidity in the market. Let's move on, though. All right, so now we're going to get to how there could potentially be some fundamental reasoning for this pullback. Although I just think it was mostly just overbought Bitcoin that needed a pullback. Tim and I were saying this day in and day out, week after week, and now it's kind of a told you so moment, right? But not in like a corny, condescending way. It's we told you so, and we're going to continue to bring you the truth and the wisdom that we have garnered over, our trading and investing career, right? That is what we're here to do. We're not here to say, ha, 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 we told you so. We're here to say, we told you so. So keep watching and understand, these markets better. You don't have to learn the hard way. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way, but you don't have to always learn the hard way. Tim and I have learned the hard way a couple of times, and so that's why we're on live streams every day, trying to help people not have to learn the hard way. Grayscale CEO says fees on its Bitcoin ETF will drop over time after outflows hit 12 billion, right? So the outflows have hit, I believe it's a new record. So it kind of came out of nowhere. I think what's happening here is the wealth managers for GBTC holders have said, look, Bitcoin is now hitting, it's kind of getting up to these Fibonacci levels at the top of the platinum pocket. This is going to be a local high. Go ahead and dump that GBTC, wait for a pullback, and then re-enter Bitcoin through the other ETFs, the Fidelity or BlackRock ETFs, or just go spot if you want to do that. I think that's what's going on here because a big uptick in outflows for GBTC was not something that I was anticipating, but it does kind of make sense. So let's get into a couple of the details here. Grayscale's GBTC has logged outflows of more than 12 billion since its converted into ETF in early January, due in no small part to its higher than average fees. Of course, that's the main detail, the saga there of why. But let's get into some quotation here. I happily confirm that over time, as this market matures, the fees of GBTC will come down. Sennheiser told CNBC in an interview on Monday, the firm previously defended its costlier than market average charges. So ultimately here, I think that this is very bullish, right? Because what we're seeing probably right now is the last flushes of folks in GBTC going ahead and selling the local top here, and rotating into whatever the heck they want, probably back into Bitcoin at lower prices, probably 58. But in the long term, this is good because the fees are going to come back down to market price fees, competitive with BlackRock and Fidelity and the others, and that's going to bring a little more sanity to these ETFs. And then, as we've seen, there'll be a lot of inflows into those. So not a smoking gun here on why exactly we'd see this now, but it kind of starts to make sense because what has been the biggest seller of Bitcoin, what has been the biggest bearer of bad news in Bitcoin, it's Grayscale. It's Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF, the GBTC, right? That fees remained elevated 1.5 when the next highest was 0.8, right? So that is what we're looking at here, and it's just a lot of buyer psychology dynamics. I think that buying at 73, if you bought here and you're now holding through, you're at a loss, just keep holding and try to DCA, buy more to lower your average entry, not financial advice. But that is the move here, right? Don't sell thinking you're going to be able to buy it lower. There's a strong chance we don't get down to 58, right? We find some support somewhere in between here and there. The way to play these markets, if you're not trading them, right, if you're not confident in years of experience trading the markets, right, is to just invest them, just buy and hodl. The thesis for Bitcoin is just as strong as it was back here at these all-time highs as it is today. Nothing has changed, okay? The only thing that has changed is a bunch of grayscale investors have probably taken profits, and, you know, that's not a bad thing necessarily. That's just what they want to do, right? And then it has a lot more to do with grayscale than it does Bitcoin. All right, moving into the next story here. World's largest pension fund explores diversifying into Bitcoin. How much AUM, you might ask, and what is this pension fund? Well, this is the GPIF's total assets under management amounted to 225 trillion Japanese yen. Okay, so that's not it's not $200 trillion. $1.5 trillion under the this is the Japanese pension funds. I believe the state pension fund. So, and this was a quotation from them. Our primary investment strategy is diversification by asset class, region, and time frame. While market prices may fluctuate in the short term, GPIF will take full advantage of our long-term investment horizon to achieve investment returns in a more stable and efficient manner. Okay, so AKA kind of interpreting that we're going slowly, but we're considering it. That is the GPIF, which is basically the Japanese government pension investment fund. So all the workers that work for the Japanese government, right? The clerks, right? The court clerks, probably the police, you know, anybody who receives a check from the state of Japan, the country of Japan, you know, and a little bit of that income goes into a pension fund, right? Goes into a savings fund that is managed by the government. They are now considering buying Bitcoin. And the Japanese really understand Bitcoin. Culturally, it's a lot more intuitive to them for some reason. But yeah, there you go. I think on the American pension funds will be a bit more delayed, although some of them have already started looking into it as well. But that's very bullish, right? Big money looking at Bitcoin. Very, very good. It's going to take the pension funds to get Bitcoin to $1 million per coin. Absolutely. Something like 3% of the world is allocated into Bitcoin at this point. There needs to, and the potential is it's going to get up to 80% allocation from the world. So let's keep going here. Just in MicroStrategies buys another 9,245 Bitcoin, equivalent of $623 million worth of Bitcoin. Goodness gracious. And this is from today, which means that they probably bought within the last 24 hours, which means they're probably buying yet another local top, which is funny. But they don't care. They have a long-term investment horizon, similar to not the Bank of Japan. Well, the Bank of Japan would like to think they have a long-term investment horizon, but similar to the pension fund of Japan, right? So a couple big headlines out of Japan today. Very, very interesting. They're doing a lot over there. And then the last one was this, just that I called it, 64 and then 58. That's what I stand by. I do think we're going to get down to those levels. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. The news did not really provide a smoking gun to exactly why we're seeing this correction right now. I think it's much more that the charts are kind of screaming out, hey, we were overbought. Now we're coming back for a long overdue correction, probably down to the golden pocket, which would put us down to 58. We may test as low as something like 56, 57, but my guess is that buyers will be voracious down here, just as the sellers were voracious up here, not wanting to bid Bitcoin higher than that level of the 887 $74,000. Going out to the 1 day, you can see that we were overbought, right? We had several reverse deltas here from ALGO saying, hey, this is going to reverse. It didn't. Hey, it's going to reverse. It didn't. Hey, it's going to reverse. It didn't. Happen 3 times. And now the market is for some reason surprised that we're seeing some downside. Why is it selling? Because if it's overbought. How low can it go? Probably around 58,000. I've been T. Shroom in for the Investing Bros. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be live again here at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Tim, where we'll go much deeper into the charts. But if you want that chart analysis right now, you got to have it. Go on over to the Piper Academy, who's going live right now, and they go very deep into the charts indeed. They've got a whole queue of really highly skilled technical analysts, OC, Army Piper himself, and TradeFly. They're going deep, and they're having fun. See you at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bros. If you're trading, keep those stop losses tight, and for the love of God, stay hydrated.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shouted out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms news, got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.
Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros.